This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. What kind of flame is this? Che Shuyao was shocked. The flame turned into a line and wrapped around his body. It even burned away the Emperor Qi of the 9 heavens that protected him. He could even smell death. This had completely overturned his understanding. One must note that the Emperor Qi of the 9 heavens was formed by condensing the rules. It was the greatest in the world and could suppress everything. He was not the only one. Everyone present was shocked. As soon as the divine flame appeared, all the other forces lost their color. Zhang Xiaotian quickly retreated after a short moment of daze. If it wasn't for the flames that saved his life, he would have died under Che Shuyao's hands. He looked to his side gratefully and saw Yunxiao's face pale and his body struggling. Although the power of the flame was strong, it was not burning brightly. It was faintly discernible, as if it was going to be extinguished at any time, as if it was lacking in strength. Che Shuyao also noticed this and shouted. Golden light appeared around his body and rushed toward the godly fire like waves. Yunxiao's heart trembled. The phoenix true flame he had now could only be used to scare people, but it was not enough to fight on the battlefield. It could not withstand Che Shuyao's sea of emperor aura. He hurriedly pointed in the air, and the flame was extinguished in an instant before it was retracted back into his glabella. Only then did his face turn slightly better. So it's your doing. Che Shuyao's face was filled with killing intent. He gritted his teeth and said, "You've been very strong since the chess game space. Let's see if you're really that strong after I break your balls." He turned around and bent his back, his legs slightly bent, and his body began to emit circles of golden emperor qi. He stared at Yunxiao and Zhang Xiaotian, ready to rush up. Beep. The 9-winged spirit snakebird flew across the sky and clawed at Che Shuyao. Its previous attack was blocked by Che Shuyao's left fist, causing it to lose a lot of its feathers. It became wild and attacked again. A white ball of light appeared on its 2 claws, cutting the surrounding space. Bastard, go to hell. Che Shuyao was a little mad. He should have been able to suppress everyone with one move, but now he was in such a bad situation. His soul was damaged and his right hand was in pain. His heart of the Emperor of the 9 heavens was greatly humiliated. He punched out a ray of light with his left hand, which was about to penetrate the 9-winged spirit snake bird. Cold Frost Ice Dragon Saber. Shen Feng roared and appeared beside the 9-winged spirit snake bird. The blade light slashed out an ice dragon, and the 9-winged spirit snake bird also pushed out the white light ball in its claws. It kept spinning in the air, giving off an ear-piercing sound of cutting through the air. Tornadoes kept forming and whistling down. The two of them joined forces to resist the fist force. Boom boom boom. The combined attack of the 2 martial venerables was directly penetrated by the martial emperor's fist force and exploded above them. The terrifying aura sent the 2 of them flying, and blood sprayed in the air. Che Shuyao's face turned cold and suddenly, the sound of a war drum was heard. It was like the sound of an iron horse. It turned into sound waves and entered his ears, attacking his sea of consciousness. Soundwave combat technique. He was suddenly shocked. In the distance, the 9-Li battle drum appeared in front of Li in the air. He kept hitting it with both hands, and the battle drum vibrated in the air. However, the surroundings were as calm as water. Only a sound wave formed a line and directly attacked him. Arg. You should die. Che Shuyao's eardrums were in great pain, and 2 streams of blood flowed out from his ears. His head was buzzing, and he had a splitting headache. Originally, this sound wave combat skill could not have hurt him at all. However, after his soul was bitten off by the soul slave, his mental state became extremely unstable. Kiki. Zhang Xiaotian threw out the soul-devouring banner again. The golden soul slave laughed and rushed out. It opened its mouth and wanted to bite again. Although it was pierced by the monarch qi and its strength was greatly reduced, it devoured Che Shuyao's arm and recovered quickly. It bit again. Ah! The Golden Soul Slave took advantage of the moment when Che Shuyao lost control of his mind and suddenly grew to a few feet tall. It opened its mouth and bit down on the upper half of Che Shuyao's body, swallowing it down. Che Shuyao's pained screams were heard. He roared crazily and wisps of golden emperor chi shot out from his body, piercing through the soul slave's body. He was surrounded by the emperor chi, opened the soul slave's mouth, and escaped. However, his entire upper body was covered in blood, and his hair was disheveled. He held his head in his hands and roared non-stop. Just now, another part of his soul had been bitten off, and Li's battle drums were getting more and more intense. Not only were they attacking his sea of consciousness, but they were also starting to stir up the chi and blood in his body, as if they were about to break out of his body. Feng Yi. Attack. Quickly kill these people. He held his head and howled in pain in the air. He had finally put down his dignity as a martial supreme and cried for help. Feng Yi had been frowning for a long time, but considering his companion's face, he still held back and crossed his arms in front of his chest. Now that his hands were down, his long robe fluttered in the wind. Everyone's expression changed. It was not easy to suppress a martial supreme with all his skills, and it was all due to luck. If Che Shuyao had not been arrogant and underestimated his opponent, he would not have ended up in such a humiliating state. As the saying goes, you won't die if you don't seek death. Feng Yi was much calmer. He didn't rush to attack. Instead, he took a step to Che Shuyao's side and began to check on his injuries. Then, he took out a pill and fed it to him. He let him sit in the air and recuperate. Then, he reached out his right hand, and a large amount of Emperor Qi surged out and surrounded Che Shuyao, forming a defensive space that protected him from being affected. Although his movements were extremely normal, Yunxiao's heart sank when he saw them. The act of Feng Yi directly reflected his calm and heavy character. Every move he made was done carefully, proving that this person must be an expert in battle. Even if there was another arrogant Che Shuyao, they would not be able to handle him, let alone a more terrifying martial emperor. It was as if a heavy stone was pressing down on everyone's heart, and their mood became extremely depressed. The fiend's gaze swept over everyone and finally landed on Zhang Xiaotian. He revealed a fierce look and nodded, "Your Luo is very good." Being stared at by him, Zhang Xiaotian's whole body became cold. He shivered and hurriedly took a few steps back. He released his golden soul slave to block in front of him, his face full of panic. The rest of the people became nervous as well. It was already difficult to breathe under the pressure of the martial sovereign, but they were all determined to fight to the death, so they felt a little more relaxed. Killing someone was just a nod, so what if he was a martial supreme? Don't tell me you can kill me twice. It seems like they're all prepared. I'm going to make my move. The Feng Yi's face sank and his expression turned cold. He raised his hand and pointed at Zhang Xiaotian. He was judged to be the most dangerous person among all of them, so he had to kill first. Zhang Xiaotian instantly gasped. Before he could react, the finger force broke through the air and pierced through the golden soul slave. It was about to shoot into his head. Bang! All of a sudden, a mini bell appeared in front of his head and blocked the power of the finger. However, the finger force was too strong and directly sent the small bell flying. Rings of sound waves spread in the air along with the sound of the bell. After being blocked, the finger force burst into countless strong winds that shot in all directions. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Junior brother Zhang Xiaotian, who was the closest, and the people of the Hall of Holy Fire all tried to block it in fear. The cultivation of a martial honor was still good, but the three martial emperors of the Hall of Holy Fire were directly penetrated by the strong wind. They all spat out blood and their lives were in danger. Yi Fan also dodged in a panic, but his arm was pierced by a burst of energy, blood flowed out, he quickly hit a few vital acupuncture points. The remnant power of a martial sovereign's finger was so terrifying. Tao Can's face turned pale, and he hurriedly went to treat his three severely injured companions. Fengzhu and Qiguang stood in front of Yi Fan, afraid that he would be in trouble. The dynasty bell kept flying back and forth in the air, letting out a buzzing sound and producing countless concentric sound waves. Finally, it made a circle and flew back into Yunxiao's hand. When the dynasty bell was shot by the finger, he had also suffered a great mental backlash, which directly damaged his heart meridian and caused him to spit out a large mouthful of blood. At this moment, his face was extremely pale, but he was still unyielding and his battle intent had not diminished. Zhang Xiaotian was the strongest person among them. If he was killed by a single finger, then there was no need to fight. It would directly become a one-sided slaughter. That was why he risked his life to save Zhang Xiaotian. 9th tier profound armament? Feng Yi was stunned. Looking at the miniature bell in Yunxiao's hand, his mind seemed to have short-circuited. In order to refine the 9th rank 5 elements beast taming ring, he had killed many creatures, but it was still a semi-finished product. And the dregs in this space actually each had a 9th tier profound armament. Even he, who had always been calm and steady, had a dark expression on his face. Was there any justice in this world? Could it be that after staying in the sect for so many years, the continent's 9th tier profound armaments could already be mass-produced? Or had some freakish great alchemist invented a method to mass-produce 9th tier profound artifacts? Otherwise, it didn't make any sense. You guys really surprised me. Feng Yi said in a serious voice, however, no matter how much he struggles, he can't escape the path of fate. From the moment I appeared, your fate had already been decided. As for the profound armaments on you, I will not be polite and accept them. His face turned cold, and light gathered in his hand. The 5 elements beast taming ring, which was connected to his mind, emerged, emitting 5-colored divine light and constantly growing in the air. The 5 mini rat king phantoms kept running on the ring axis. They looked cute, which was very popular with girls. But at this moment, no one liked it. Although the 5 elements beast taming ring was only a semi-finished product, it was still considered a quasi-9th tier profound artifact. Moreover, in the hands of a martial emperor, the power it displayed was absolutely a world of difference. The face of Feng Yi was abnormally calm under the illumination of the 5-colored light. However, the more calm it was, the more depressed it seemed. The next attack would be earth-shattering, the attack that would end this battle. Sheng had not made a move since the beginning. After his grand microscopic armillary sphere was damaged, he had lost the ability to fight against these powerful beings. He suddenly spoke, Li Yunxiao, where's your saint artifact? Take it out and let everyone hide inside. We'll owe you a favor. Yunxiao's face was also very unsightly. The Divine Realm tablet had lost all its spirit chi, and it was almost an empty shell. He was not sure if it could withstand the attack of a martial emperor using a 9th tier mystic weapon. You still have the face to tell me this? If it weren't for your armillary sphere, my Divine Realm tablet wouldn't have lost all its spiritual chi. Now, I'm in a dilemma. You've only lost all your spiritual essence, Sheng laughed bitterly, but mine has been completely crushed by you. Don't worry, he's only a 1-star martial emperor. With this half-finished 9th tier profound artifact, it's impossible for him to break open your saint artifact space. If I manage to escape today, I'll definitely return this favor. Return? After entering my profound weapon space, your life and death will be completely up to me. Do you think I'll let you go? Yunxiao's eyes turned cold, and they flickered. There are no eternal enemies in this world, Sheng laughed. I think we can turn from enemies to friends. Yunxiao's heart jolted. He had never thought about turning enemies into friends, but after entering the Divine Realm tablet, the life and death of these great demons would be under his control. At that time, he could decide how to deal with them. At the thought of this, he sneered and said, if you have the guts, you can come in. He conjured an art with one hand, and light began to appear between his brows. Feng Yi was very curious. Under the suppression of his powerful aura, these people in front of him could still talk and laugh, as if they didn't put him in their eyes at all. He also didn't know what the saint artifact the other party mentioned was, but he was very curious about what other means these people had to resist his 5 elements beast controlling ring. Stop. Just as Yunxiao was about to summon the Divine Realm tablet, a cold cry suddenly came from the sky. Under the 5-colored light of the 5 elements beast taming ring, the space kept shrinking. A flash of lightning came, and gradually a faint figure emerged. It was Qingzhu. Its cold eyes swept across everyone. "You're about to die, and you're still in the mood for infighting," he said with a grave expression. "You are the spiritual body of the divine tree?" The Zhang Xiaotian frowned. Qingzhu's entire body flickered with electric arcs, as if it had consumed a great deal of energy to come in from the outside. It coldly said, "You activated the heaven and earth chessboard, so I couldn't get in. Although I don't know how you broke the go arrangement, now that disaster is imminent, you're still showing off your power here." "What do you mean?" Zhang Xiaotian asked coldly. He had seen Little Green's cultivation level. Even if it joined the battle, it would not be his match. However, he was experienced and steady, so he was not in a hurry to attack. Qingzhu's face was full of worry. The power of the throne, the immortal mountain, has already started to activate. The 4 seasons are rotating under its control. It's already late autumn outside. If it's winter, then the law of winter quietus will kill all living beings in the formation. Feiyang frowned and snorted, "What are you acting like? Aren't you in charge of this formation?" Qingzhu's eyes were cold as it said, "If I could control the power of the formation, do you think you would still be alive?" Feiyang was startled and immediately fell silent. Thinking about it, the power of the formation had far exceeded his expectations. If the other party could really control it, they would have been killed in seconds. "You mean, after the power of the unaging mountain is activated, there will only be 1 season, and it will no longer enter a cycle?" Yunxiao asked in surprise. "Not bad." Little Qing said in a deep voice, "This is the most powerful killing move that the king-level master set up in the past. It was to maintain the perfection of his formation. Once someone destroys it, the unaging mountain will gather all its power and trigger the rule of the earth. Winter has arrived. Unless someone can resist the power of the rule, they will die without a doubt." Yunxiao's face flickered, and he lost his previous calm. Even when the 5 elements beast taming ring appeared, he did not have such an ugly look on his face. Rule force could be large or small. For example, when a sacred skill was used, the rules that could be added to the martial skill were very limited. When a martial sovereign condensed it, it would be earth-shattering, enough to overturn rivers and seas, and change stars. The higher one's cultivation was, the stronger the power of regulation one could use. However, if one were to use a 9th-tier top-grade profound-level weapon in addition to the 4 seasons boundary array, even a peak martial supreme would find it difficult to escape from such a powerful array that could draw out the laws of Earth. Feiyang seemed to have realized the seriousness of the problem, and his face turned extremely ugly. "According to what you said, we're dead for sure." The great demons who were listening quietly at the side were also shocked. They were all existences at the peak of the martial supreme realm in the past. Naturally, they knew the severity of the situation. Sheng, on the other hand, gave Yunxiao a complicated look and frowned. Yunxiao understood what he meant and shook his head slightly. Sheng was obviously asking him if the Divine Realm tablet could withstand the crushing power of the rule of Earth. He himself thought it was unlikely. Yunxiao was completely sure that he could not stop it, unless the Divine Realm tablet was completely activated at this moment, and the 4 major territories were fully opened. Then, it would be a combination no weaker than the 4 seasons enchantment and the unaging mountain, and there would be no need to worry about hiding in it. In the current situation, the Divine Realm tablet could only be destroyed along with the descent of the rules. "There's still a chance of survival," Qingzhu said coldly, "but I'm not sure if I can survive. But if I don't fight for it, there's no hope at all." He looked at Feiyang, and his eyes fell on the 5 elements beast collar in the sky. A trace of anger flashed through his eyes. Although he was not a rat emperor, he had gotten along very well with these spiritual rats over the countless years. At this moment, seeing the familiar figures being controlled by others, he was also extremely angry. If he didn't need to borrow the power of his fief, he would have turned hostile and killed him on the spot. Feiyang also seemed to have noticed something, and with a casual point, he put away the 5 elements beast taming ring and stood with his hands behind his back. "Tell me, what do you mean by vitality? If the situation is really as you say, I can't think of any way to survive." Everyone, please follow me, Ching said. He performed a hand seal in the air, and a passage appeared in the space in front of him. The light from the outside shot in. The crowd followed him out. Feng Yi was neither servile nor overbearing, and these people could not escape his hands no matter what. They had to understand the current situation first. He pointed out his finger and dispelled the emperor qi of the 9 heavens around Che Shuyao. Che Shuyao opened his eyes. He had heard everything just now. His face was extremely cold and he followed the crowd out without saying a word. Bulow Mountain was a land of decay. The autumn wind swept past, and the yellow leaves flew in the sky. Endless fallen trees rustled down, revealing the mournfulness of the entire mountain. When everyone arrived at the peak of the mountain, Qingzhu began to cast all kinds of spells into the sky. The dark clouds gradually dispersed, and the sky began to change. However, no matter how the sky changed, the autumn in the mountain became more and more intense, as if it was going to be winter soon. This is the seal of the swan and eye? Yunxiao's eyes were filled with surprise as he looked at the symbols and all kinds of stripes that were gradually appearing in the sky. They looked like a blanket with a complicated pattern, quietly floating above him, swaying up and down. If it were not for little Qing's qi, they would have disappeared in a flash. Qingzhu finally revealed a smile, but it was still ugly. That's right, it's a spatial seal. In addition, when Wuzi was setting up the barrier here, he didn't even discover it. How is that possible? Feng Yi was shocked and cried out. Could it be an ancient seal? In this world, who can hide from the king-level master's seal? It's not an ancient seal, but it's been there for thousands of years, Qing said. Yi Fan's expression changed drastically. At this moment, a strange power seemed to come down from the seal, calling him. That faintly discernible qi activity response became extremely intense at this moment. Big brother Yunxiao. Yi Fan called out nervously, his eyes filled with panic. Yunxiao's face changed drastically, and his heart was filled with shock. He had understood what Yi Fan wanted to convey. Noah's ship was in this seal. Yunxiao turned his face slightly and gave Tang Jia a sidelong glance. He saw that Tang Jia also had an unusually terrified look on his face, and his body seemed to be trembling slightly, trying to hide his nervousness. Thousands of years old. That era is not too far away from now. Are there any peerless figures? Feng Yi frowned. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something and his expression changed drastically. However, he could not believe it and shook his head with a bitter smile. Qingzhu glanced at him and said indifferently, since you've already thought of it, why don't you dare to believe it? What? Feng Yi's face changed again, revealing an extremely shocked expression. He said in fear, you know what I'm thinking? Could this place really be a kasaya? Feng Yi? What are you thinking about? Che Shuyao frowned. He's actually so moved. Gulp. Feng Yi felt his throat become extremely dry. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva and looked at Qing's expression of certainty. He was completely stunned and his mind went blank. This made Che Shuyao frown even more and he said, for thousands of years, there hasn't been any great figures except for Yi Nantian and Gu Qingqing. Not bad. Qingzhu glanced at him, its eyes cold as it spat out, this is the space seal that Yi Nantian set up.